In this chapter, we're going to do this section about solving by completing the square. Now, if you have an example like this, x squared equals 8x minus 9, what I want you to do is equal it to 0. So you have x squared minus 8x minus 9, plus 9 equal to 0. Now we need a formula to complete the square. And the formula is as follows. Is b over 2 squared. Okay? And b is always the number multiplying x. So in this case, negative 8 is b. So you have negative 8 over 2 squared. Well, what is negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is negative 4 times negative 4, which is 16. So 16 is the number that's going to complete the square. So what I want you to do is to add 16 on both sides. So you have x squared minus 8x plus 9 plus 16 equals 16. Now notice that by adding on both sides, I have balanced the equation. Because if I subtract 16, you get 0. Now that 9, you don't need it. So you can move it to the other side. So you have x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 16 minus 9. Now this is going to complete the square. By that, it means it's going to factor into a perfect square. Now you can use the x method for that. Or a simple way is that it's going to factor to the number that you have before squaring in the formula. So in this case, minus 4. So this becomes x minus 4 squared. And 16 minus 9 is positive 7. Now we have to solve. And by that, it means solve for x. Well, if you have a square, what do we do to get rid of the square? Well, we square root. So you have x minus 4 equals, whenever we square root, there's always a plus or minus. Now, what will be the next step? Well, we just need to add 4. So x equals positive 4 plus or minus square root of 7. And that's your solution. Now for our next problem, 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. I'm going to use a different color. So you get 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equal to 0. Now, the only difference here is the 2, right? We didn't have a number in front of x squared. And that's going to be a very important role. Now, what you can do is you can divide everything by 2, right, on both sides. That's one option. Or we can factor the 2, whatever is easier. In my opinion, I think it's easier to just divide everything by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, and divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, minus 5 half x, minus 3 halves equals 0. Now, obviously, whenever there's fractions, things get a little more challenging, but we've worked with fractions before, so we should be fine. Again, it's b over 2 squared. Now we substitute b. In this case, it's negative 5 over 2. It's going to be negative 5 over 2 squared. Now remember, when you have a fraction over a number, we make the number into a fraction and we multiply by the reciprocal. Negative 5 over 2 times 1 over 2 squared. That gives me negative 5 over 4 squared. Now remember, what is negative 5 over 4 squared? It's negative 5 times negative negative 5 over 4 times negative 5 over 4. That gives me 25 over 16. That's the number you're going to add in both sides. So x squared minus 5 over 2x plus 25 over 16. Now that negative 3 halves, we don't need it. Move it to the other side. So 3 halves plus 25 over 16. Okay. Now this completes, remember, into the number that you have here before squaring. So this becomes x minus 5 over 4 squared. Now, in order to add two fractions, we always need a what? A common denominator. So the 3 halves and the 25 over 16, common denominator is 16. And by that, we need to multiply the 3 halves by 8 over 8. We can do that in this step here. 8 times 3, 24 over 16 plus 25 over 16. Now 24 plus 25 is 49 over 16. And this stays the same. Now again, in order to get rid of the square, we square root. So x minus 5/4 equals plus or minus square root of 49 over 16, which is equal to plus or minus the square root of 49 over the square root of 16, which is equal to plus or minus square root of 49 is 7, square root of 16 is 4. Now, our last step will be adding 5/4. So x equals plus or minus 7 over 4 plus 5/4. Now, difference to the previous example, we had a square root, so we couldn't add them. But these are not square roots anymore. So we can add them and subtract them both. So x1 is positive 7/4 plus 5/4. x2 is negative 7/4 plus 5/4. This one equals, well, 7 plus 5. 7 plus 7 is 14, minus 2 is 12 over 4. And x2, negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2 over 4. We can simplify this to be 3. We can simplify this one to be negative 1/2. And that will be your answer. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments or ask me in class. Thank you.